We're going to call this meeting to order. I want to thank you all for joining us in our March 2nd Board of Supervisors meeting. We're going to acknowledge our High Desert and Joshua Tree video conference sites. We're going to be led by invocation in the pledge by 5th District. Mr. Baca.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman Hagman. So today gives me great pleasure to introduce the pastor at St. Catherine's of Siena and Rialto Catholic Church, and that's Pastor Revan Brisio. Let me tell you a little bit about him. He was born July 9th, 1946, and his place of birth was Bataan, Philippines. He was ordained a priest July 8th, 1972, in Tagaytay City in the Philippines. And he's been a member of the Congregation Society Divine World Ministries. Also, places of mission of work, Argentina for 17 years, Spain, 15 years, and the United States for 16 years. And years as a pastor, he was at the Queen of Angels in Riverside for 3 years, All Souls Church in San Francisco for 3 years. And he currently has been at St. Catherine's of Siena for 3 years. And just happy to say that St. Catherine's has been, church has been open for now 3 weeks. And with my great pleasure, please rise for Pastor Revan Brisio tomorrow.
Thank you. O loving God of future and of purpose, we call upon you in faith to weave the pattern of our days. I invoke your name and ask you to bless the meeting of the Board of Supervisors so that where inspiration and guidance are needed, they may open their minds and hearts to your designs. May vision and clarity be your gifts to them along the way. May openness to possibilities and a cherishing of our history blend in their efforts to give shape to the future. May you reveal to them the truth of today and lead them forth with courage. Most especially, we ask your blessing upon our supervisors. Allow them the freedom of honest conversation. Let them know of your care and concern. Open their hearts to the joy of your presence as they spend this time of counsel together. Bless this time and give them your peace. We ask this in the name of Jesus the Lord. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. Tomorrow, so we could now face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Reverend. We're going to turn to memorial adjournments. Supervisor.
Thank you.
Seeing none, we'll go to reports by County Council. No.
Again, Jeff. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No items to report this morning.
Mr. CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No items to report.
Sounds good. We have one special presentation this morning. No, read it off from here and then invite Stephanie up and invite the board to join me up there. Stephanie Roque began her career with the probation department as a group counselor in 1990. Throughout her tenure, Stephanie held many positions in the probation department, including an impressive 25 years in juvenile detention that encompassed the Juvenile Community Corrections Bureau, the Detention Corrections Bureau, and the Administrative Services Bureau. Stephanie has worked on specialized assignments, which has helped shape the progressive nature of the probation department. She, after 31 years of service to San Bernardino County as the Division Director 2 for the probation department, Stephanie is entering a new chapter of life in her retirement. We want to thank her for all the invaluable service and dedication to the county of San Bernardino as residents. And I want to invite Stephanie up and my colleagues up to help present the resolution to her. We'll talk. Is it? No green light. It's mechanical issues.
Test.
Stephanie, we want to thank you for 31 years of dedicated service to the residents of San Bernardino County and a very impressive career going through the whole time. We're very excited for you to enter your next phase of life. And you want to talk about that and bring up any friends or family you have too. You're welcome to do that.
Thank you. Thank you. I would like to thank the board, all the board members today for presenting me with this resolution. I am more than grateful. I'd like to recognize and thank my probation family, all 1,300 of them, approximately, and some of them are here today. Thank them for the impact they've had on my life over my 31-year journey. It's been amazing, and that's because they're amazing. Probation department is absolutely amazing. Chief Brown and the administration, I'd like to thank you for placing your trust and faith in me over the years in all my assignments to represent you and the department. And most recently over the past 4+ years being the probation department PIO. Thank you very much. And lastly, I'd like to invite my family up. Come on, guys. I know you weren't counting on this, but come on. I want to express my heartfelt gratitude to my family for being there for me, for their unwavering love and support over the past 31 years, for putting up with me, your patience. My baby was a toddler when I started, and now she's all grown up, and we have our own new baby, and that's going to be a big part of my retirement. She's 4 years old. So thank you guys. I love you. Thank you for your love and support, because without them, I wouldn't be here today. Thank you. It's been my honor to serve the San Bernardino County Probation Department for 31 years.
We're very proud of the probation department and the great leadership and under yours as well for doing that. And thank you again for the 31+ years. And let's hear it one more time for congratulations for a successful career.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Enjoy the retirement.
Chairman, may I make a comment about Stephanie, if you don't mind?
Sure.
Yeah, I just want to personally congratulate Stephanie. We actually go back 25 years. I think when I was a probation officer too with the county of San Bernardino, I believe she was a probation corrections officer. She was in the institutions, and just want to congratulate you on your service, personally, and thank you for your service. Enjoy those grandbabies, and it's a pleasure to know you. All right, congratulations.
Congratulations again. We're going to move on to Leonard, we're going to bring item number 54, our COVID update.
Thank you, Chairman. It's our pleasure to present to you a COVID update today. And with me, joining part of this presentation is Corwin Porter. There are other members of the vaccination and COVID task force here ready to answer any questions. We can go to the next slide, please. So we're going to cover here the red tier status and vaccination progress generally. To join me today, Corwin Porter, the Director of Public Health. He's going to cover where we're currently at in our status. And if as he comes up, we can go to the next slide and he'll cover these.
Good morning, Corwin Porter, Director of Public Health. It's great to be with you this morning, Chairman, Vice Chair, and members of the board. So you can see that this slide is titled, "When do we get to red?" Well, our current data is definitely trending in the right direction still, so I'm happy to report that. We indicate, based on our projections, that as early as later this week, we expect to get to that 7 cases per 100,000 that we've all been wanting to get to for quite some time, so that's good news. Once the state actually places us into the red tier, which will be effective on a Wednesday, they make the announcement on Tuesday, then we have to be in that tier, we have to be credited 2 full weeks of meeting tier criteria. So we have that to look forward to. We projected that around March 22nd would be the magic timeframe. We'll continue to update on a frequent basis as the numbers may change. They may go faster, they may go a little slower, but we'll keep everyone updated. So on the bottom of that slide, you can see what we're really looking for. Once we get to that 7 cases, then we hope to continue to progress lower to the next tier. Next slide, please. So our current statistics as they stand right now, you can see that we are rapidly approaching 300,000 cases in our county. Thank goodness the progression is much slower. We're seeing just a few hundred and sometimes less cases per day now, where we were seeing thousands. And so a great progression for us. Our case rate, this data was actually yesterday's data. As of this morning, the case rate is now at 8.7 cases per 100,000. That's the adjusted rate. The overall positivity dropped slightly this morning to 4.3%. So good news there. The equity positivity held steady at 5.2%. You can also see that the testing volume is around 353 tests. We found out this morning that this is slightly above this new state median that will be announced today. And so that's good news too. It'll be around, I believe, 345, give or take. Then on the vaccine front, you can see some good news there. Over 300,000 doses have been received. Almost 300,000 have been distributed. And then the vaccines that are allocated right now for the current vaccine efforts are just over 12,000. And then we are working on finishing up the very few that we have left that need to be allocated still. And so that will be taking place immediately. So very good news there. Next slide, please.
So when we look at the vaccines and the distribution process, we're currently in phase 1, which includes the list that's up there. The plan is for us to announce today food and agriculture workers. That's the next step forward. I will say that the team is making great progress and working through each of these categories and getting our vaccines distributed in a timely manner. I want to thank all the coordination and the work that has gone into this, because it is something that the team continues to spend a lot of time making sure that we're working directly with the state and state public health as well. We go to the next slide. Corwin's going to take that one.
Sure. So a lot of people have been hearing about the Johnson & Johnson or Janssen vaccine. We're excited to say that that's been approved by the federal government. We're waiting for news from the state to be coming down any day, announcing its approval here within the state. The great news about this particular vaccine is that it's a single dose and it can be stored under refrigerated conditions. It makes it a lot simpler to handle for those who are our partners in getting the vaccine administered. The other good news is that it's 85% effective against the illness and nearly 100% effective against severe illness that results in hospitalization or death. So really good news. And then what we are also wanting to share this morning, that just a little bit about this vaccine. It's very similar to the two that you're familiar with, the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccine. Basically, this vaccine will have the body produce a spike protein, and the body then produces antibodies against that. So our immune system will recognize if it's ever impacted or by the COVID-19 virus and create an immediate immune response. So it works very similar to the other two, but really good news there, especially that the safety is very high with this vaccine as well. So we're very excited to see our first shipments arrive, and we'll hopefully have a date soon to share on when those will actually start arriving in our county.
We go to the next slide. And our county efforts have been focusing on working with our mobile units to get those out into communities so that seniors have access close to home. We see here a list of all the communities that the mobile units are planning to visit. We've had several initial events that have been successful, and we appreciate our coordination with the Department of Aging and Adult Services and all the senior centers in our cities that are working together with us to identify locations where these units can visit.
Later, may I jump in and just ask you or Corwin? I saw in the news, I think last week, that the projected amount of volume of vaccines coming to California is going to be rapidly increasing, hopefully threefold. I don't know if that is accurate or not, and what time that may start. But I think the numbers were from 1.5 million a week to like 4 million a week of vaccines. As hopefully sometime in the future, as our volume grows of the ability to give vaccines, how are we looking for the infrastructure to deploy those at the same rate that you're deploying them now, which is very quick? Do we have the staffing? I mean, do you see this type of mobile unit? I know there's a couple of the cities in my district. I know they have community centers that we could use instead of a mobile unit, but how's the staffing looking and stuff like that? And are we getting more of those vaccines, I guess?
Yeah, I asked yesterday the team if they've heard of any news from the state at least of a significant increase in vaccinations. And as of yesterday, we haven't. But that doesn't mean that with other pharmaceutical companies coming online that there will not be an increase. And the infrastructure that is being established, there's a lot of pharmacies and private providers, the hospitals, et cetera, that are being set up to offer the vaccinations. Once we start seeing a lot more inventory, it's going to become very easy for people to get their appointments. The county will always be ready to assist if there's a supply and demand issue. We also have other providers that and partners that are willing to come online. If we have a overabundance of supplies, I think that we can quickly pivot to a approach that would incorporate access in a lot of different locations. Right now, with working with the tight timeline and the relatively limited supply of vaccinations that we get, the model of those 5 points of distribution and working with our hospitals seems to be a good way for us to quickly get these out and not have any excess inventory, which would cause us to lose future supply and doses going forward. Corin, I don't know if you have anything you'd like to add on that point.
No, that's well said, and we're waiting to see how the third party administrator takes over some of that process as well. So more to come on that as that develops.
Chairman?
Yeah, Mr. Parker.
Hey, thank you, Chairman. Just a question. I know that the farm workers and essential workers are now coming online, but when can it be said that when those with pre-existing conditions, when will that be? I didn't see that mentioned in the PowerPoint.
Thank you for highlighting that. Corin, do you have the exact date for that?
Sure. The state has announced that March 15th is when those with severe disability or medical conditions would qualify for the vaccine through their providers. And so that's what we can expect. And that's coming up pretty soon. We're just a couple short weeks away from that.
I appreciate it. So just say, for example, for the purpose of discussion, so the general public understands, if you have pre-existing conditions, are they asking for you to show proof? Are you doing it through registration? Can you do it through the JIC? Just to try to get an understanding of how you show proof that you can begin to get these vaccinations with someone with pre-existing conditions?
Yeah, I think the beauty of this one is that they're asking the providers to do it who have the medical records, who know what the person's physical status is and the need for the vaccine. So they're not really asking the counties to take over that responsibility, but do the, like, as you mentioned, the food and ag and all these other sectors, but let them really focus on that population has the most severe impacts of COVID-19.
And I think that's important that the county does share that we're not the ones that are going to be administering. It's going to be their own personal provider.
We'll make sure that we add that in our updates and communication out to the community so that there is no confusion about that point.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.
Go to the next slide, please. So we want our county to be prepared for the new state appointment and notification system by encouraging folks to register in that system. As they do register in that system, what will happen is as there are vaccination opportunities available, they will be notified of that, and it'll help us with the management process. We're still, as a county, in the process of transitioning over to that system. We're working out, just like with any implementation, a few bugs and making sure that the priorities of our county are understood by those that are working with the state in my turn. I want to thank the team for their persistence and bulldog determination to make sure that the perspectives and the priorities of our county residents are taken into consideration as this is being rolled out. Lots of conversation with the state and lots of communication with the vendor, my turn, to make sure that all of that works. And we're hopeful that as we move forward, that this will be a good tool for us to do that. Right now, we're currently using the old system for a lot of our appointments, but we will start transitioning over the next several weeks to that.
Leonard, you're being very kind to my turn right now because I know some of the issues behind it. But just for the public notice that we were the second county to sign up and try it for about a week, and there were some technical issues with the qualifications of the appointments. And the Leonard and Corwin's team with great had to pivot on a dime, so to speak, on over the weekend and make a lot of changes in the software. I guess mistakes the software had. So thank you for all those who are working 7 days a week at this to make sure that our residents gets priority on it.
Yeah, would like to give special notice to Michael Jimenez, who's joined the vaccination team, who worked evenings and weekends with his team, the staff members, because there was some appointments from out-of-county residents, a large amount that we had to work through. And also thank our board for advocating for our county's interests with the state and our other counties. I believe that made a big difference in us seeing that decision reversed and us being able to get those appointments back for our county residents. So as they say, the battle goes on and we'll continue step by step.
But I understand the conversations with the staff of my turn have pointed out some of the problems they had and hopefully are addressing those for the future.
They have, and what we're trying to discern and distinguish is what are quote unquote policies that are going to require this system to operate a certain way so that we can clearly understand and define them rather than stumble upon them as we go through. Again, as an organization that's been handling its own implementations of new approaches, we understand that sometimes you are building the plane as you're flying it, but the more information we can get from the state helps us to then inform you as policymakers, but also our public, so that our residents are at the forefront of our concern and priority to make sure that the vaccinations are available for them. We go to the next slide. So as part of our effort to continue to move forward, focusing on equity has been a key component. And to highlight the work of the Equity Element Group in this environment has been very valuable because many of the members on the Equity Element Group have helped provide perspective to our Assistant Executive, Diana Alexander, who's been helping to work with the vaccination team on identifying opportunities so that we can make sure that we are getting out to those underserved communities, as well as working with your offices and taking the lead on some town hall meetings. We believe that the communication has started in a good direction. We still have some more to do. And we look forward to continuing this dialogue and moving forward, like with our partnerships with the Congregation of Organized Prophetic Engagement, identifying a number of African-American churches that we can get to and work a partnership of vaccinations. We appreciate their leadership and their hard work to put something like that together, because it's a lot of coordination, and we're happy to be a partner in that effort. Next slide, please. We continue our media marketing campaigns. We're very excited with the partnership that we were able to establish in Rancho Cucamonga with IEHP and them activating the site using their staff and a combination of partnership with our staff and our Arrowhead Regional Medical Center. Again, this is an environment where there's just a lot of wonderful leadership and collaboration taking place. And then continuing to get the message out in a number of different mediums and in different languages as well continues to be a priority for the team, so that we can continue to message clearly what's going on the vaccination front and people's opportunities to take advantage of those vaccinations. And if we go to the last slide here, again, we're just a friendly reminder to continue to wash your hands, cover your face, maintain physical distancing, stay at home if you're sick, and an overall reminder that if you are vaccinated, it doesn't mean that you can never contract COVID. It just means that hopefully your symptoms are reduced. And so we do encourage people to continue to be mindful, continue to get tested if they do believe they're sick. That's an effort that the county is pushing forward and is underway that helps the contact tracers and the public health effort identifying where there might be potential outbreaks. With that, if there are any questions for the board.
Thank you. And Corin, I think you touched this at the beginning, but probably the biggest call I get is, when do you expect red tier? So we got a couple of weeks here. And can you remind the public what things change from purple to red and that progression?
Sure. Some of the key things that will change is that retail will be expanded. We'll see restaurants being able to allow indoor dining. We'll see gyms for the first time in seems like forever have some capacity to open inside with modifications. So those are the kind of the three big ones. There's a few other small things that will change, but those are the ones that we often get the calls on as well.
And a lot of news lately of a deal for schools and what happens when you have the red tier for the schools, and what should we expect, and parents should be expected over the next month or two as far as what's open, what's not.
Sure. The schools are similar to what you just asked. The schools can reopen once we get to the red tier for grades 7 through 12. Now, obviously, that'll be a district decision that they'll be working through, but that's the first opportunity they will have to come back in some hybrid or some form that they choose where they can meet the state requirements.
Colonel.
Chair. By the way, I want to commend what you've been doing. There's always hiccups on the way and everything else, but I think this county's got to be very, very proud of the effort and the organization that goes into it. I did have a question, and I've talked to doctors and everything else, and it's smoking and the correlation. For years, the amount of money, the ads, pictures of John Wayne, and to a certain degree, you hate to waste a good crisis, the old saying. And in terms of cancer, in terms of this, if you're a smoker, or I know it's very, very difficult and everything else, but this might be another time where we can reemphasize the horrible effects of, I know it's a bad habit, everything else, whether in conjunction with this, we might be able to reinforce that, or whether that consideration has been brought up at all.
Corin, I don't know if you have any insight from the public health side, and
Sure.
if there are any large perspectives that we could take back and maybe bring a report back to the board at a later date.
Sure. On the first list that we got from the state about health status, health conditions that would predispose someone to have a more serious effect from COVID-19, smoking was listed in that early list. And so I think there's definitely some messaging we can do, Supervisor, around that subject and encourage cessation and those types of things, just as an overall health strategy.
Chairman?
Yeah, Supervisor Bach.
Yeah, thank you. No questions, just, a few comments. Last week had the opportunity to host a town hall in the 5th District virtually and had a lot of success. A lot of questions people had, questions about their citizenship status. Can they get COVID testing? Vaccinations. Questions about pregnancy. So there was a lot of good questions answered. And I think it's important that us as the county continue to share information. But, really want to thank the county staff for doing a great job. Wanted to publicly thank, Dr. Corwin Porter for doing a great job and participating, and Diane Alexander for answering a lot of questions, and also Dr. Yang at ARMC. It was well attended, a lot of faith-based groups, community groups that participated. And I know that Dr. Porter also got to participate in another town hall that was hosted by Assemblymember Reyes with Senator Leyva and myself. And just really want to thank you for sharing that information with the community. We have to continue to do it. This is a moving target. The information continues to change day after day, and we got to continue to do our duty to keep the public informed. And just the last note, just on these, I got a chance to attend 3 of the pop-up mobile centers for seniors. One at the Hutton Center in Colton, the one at the Senior Center here just up the street in San Bernardino, then also the one in unincorporated area of Muscoy at the Baker Center. And I tell you, man, staff was very good, very organized, professional. People felt comfortable there, and they did a good job getting out at least 100 vaccinations in those sites. So just wanted to give kudos to staff for being very organized and doing a great job. So thank you.
Great. We're gonna have a couple public comments on this. Here in the chambers, we have Philip Figgis. Then Christy Spova Burchett. Yep.
Good morning. This is just a public comment on what we've been seeing over the last 6 months, I guess we'd call it. And we've been coming here over and over. And I believe that we really do need to look at ourselves as human beings that use some sense in everything that we do, common sense, a lot of people call it. And I just want to repeat something that I said the first time I came here. And about a year ago, I was in the Philippines at this very time. We already saw things that you probably didn't see here in the United States. And we had a very good indication that this was going to be some kind of scandemic, as it turned out to be called. But I wanted to remind you, I got a text message just a couple days before President Duterte declared the same kind of situation that was going to go over here in the United States around March 15th. Our friend, who's usually working as a librarian in a private school in Metro Manila, PI, what should have also been considered in this writing was that Martin Luther was also being sought out by the Roman Church at the same time back 500 years ago, because he was applying the Christian Bible to sin and sinners without opinion, which went against the Pope's desire. So he was trying to be murdered at the same time that he was trying to carry out what he considered to be the truth. So I want to read what he wrote there. And then also I want to throw in this right now too, to a lot of people who might not know this, but Martin Luther is the one who brought about what we call comprehensive or compensatory education, okay? That means a student has to be in school. He's the one that came up with that, and he wrote all about it, so you can find it. But I want to write what he said about this Black Plague, which is not anything like what you're dealing with. You're dealing with a flu, people. I shall ask God mercifully to protect us, then I shall fumigate, help purify the air, administer medicine and take it. I shall avoid places and persons where my presence is not needed. in order not to become contaminated and thus perchance inflict and pollute others and so cause their death as a result of my negligence. If God should wish to take me, he will surely find me, and I have done what he has expected of me, and so I am not responsible for either my own death or the death of others. If my neighbor needs me, however, I shall not avoid place or person, but will go freely as stated above. See, this is such a God-fearing faith because it is neither brash nor foolhardy and does not contempt God. This is from his annotated Luther, Volume 4, Pastoral Writings, page 404.
That's time.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Christy Swallow Burchett, then Norma Godinez.
At the last board meeting, several speakers gave public comment expressing that those to fear are those that are asymptomatic. Those walking around with no symptoms, not wearing masks, are the ones carrying and spreading COVID. It's a real shame how misinformed people are with the truth of asymptomatic spread. This lie was put out there first by those in government and public health and then promoted by the mainstream media. A lie was told in order to get businesses, schools, and churches to shut down, in order to make people stay 6 feet apart, in circles, social distance, as it was ironically and cruelly coined. It was put forward to order to force people to wear masks, or 2 or 3 or 4 or more, indoors, outdoors, on bicycles, and in cars alone. This lie has schools preparing with plexiglass to separate students from one another in a setting devoid of human contact and connection. This was the lie that kept and keeps it all going, that the asymptomatic are diseased and contagious, carrying infections. The following are limited extracts from the scientific literature on asymptomatic spread in COVID-19. As always, I followed these up with complete citations via email to you all. Wuhan recruited nearly 10 million people and found no newly confirmed cases with COVID-19. The detection rate of asymptomatic positive cases was very low, and there was no evidence of transmission from asymptomatic positive persons to traced close contacts. There were no asymptomatic positive cases in 96.4% of the residential communities. There are few reports of laboratory confirmed cases who are truly asymptomatic, and to date, there has been no documented asymptomatic transmission. The detection of the RNA COVID in pre-symptomatic or asymptomatic persons does not prove that they can transmit the virus to others. In summary, all of the 455 contacts were excluded from SARS-CoV-2 infection, and we conclude the infectivity of some asymptomatic SARS-CoV-2 carriers might be weak. Asymptomatic cases were least likely to infect their close contacts. That's all from the scientific literature. Lastly, an article written about the WHO's assertion and then quick backpedaling the day after, on June 8, 2020, Maria Van Herkov, PhD, head of the World Health Organization's Emerging Diseases and Zoonosis Unit, released a compilation of a number of contact tracing programs from various nations and plainly stated, from the data we have, it seems to be very rare that an asymptomatic person actually transmits onward to a secondary individual. This writer hates to think what happened to Dr. Herskov overnight at the hands of her WHO handlers, because the next day she also furiously backpedaled and stated, I use the phrase very rare. And I think that's misunderstanding to state that asymptomatic transmission globally is very rare. I was referring to a small subset of studies. It is clear that Dr. Herskov's first statement that naively repeated the clear facts of the matter did not follow the WHO's justification.
That's time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Norma Godinez. Good morning.
Good morning. Hello, my name is Norma Godinez. I live in Altaloma. According to the New York Post, 51% of Americans would refuse or delay the coronavirus vaccine. 31% stated they would They would want to see further results of the vaccine's effectiveness and side effects, and it's no wonder why they feel this way. On January 18th, Luz Legaspi, a 72-year-old New Yorker, woke up with bruises a day after receiving the Moderna vaccine. She was hospitalized a day after with a very bad case of immune thrombocytopenia, a lack of platelets, the same condition that OB/GYN Dr. Gregory Michael developed in January after receiving the Pfizer vaccine. He died 2 weeks later from a brain hemorrhage. 39-year-old Brittany Hall Perez died January 13th, a day after receiving the COVID vaccine. Haley Brinkmeyer, a 28-year-old physical therapist, died January 20th, 2 days after she received the COVID vaccine. Shauna, her mother, stated there were no red flags in the autopsy, and the coroner assured her he would find out what happened. 32-year-old Dr. Carla Osorio from Monclavo, Coahuila, Mexico, developed seizures 20 minutes after receiving the Pfizer vaccine and is now paralyzed from the waist down. At St. Elizabeth's Nursing Home in the Netherlands, 22 residents died within 2 weeks of receiving the mRNA shot. It is unclear whether it was Pfizer or Moderna since they used both. These are only a few cases. As of February 26, VAERS, the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System, has reported 1,111 deaths, 770 life-threatening reactions, and 415 permanent disabilities from Pfizer and Moderna vaccines. These are only the cases that have been reported. Unless a report is submitted, an adverse reaction will go undetected. On February 27th, the FDA issued an emergency use authorization of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine and stated, "At this time, data are not available to determine how long the vaccines will provide protection, nor is there evidence that vaccines prevent transmission of SARS-CoV-2. Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, and Moderna are under emergency use authorization and have not been proven safe or effective. The residents of San Bernardino County should be made aware of the VAERS reporting system. County residents should be told about the VAERS reporting system when they receive the vaccine. If there are any adverse reactions, they should consult with their doctor and report these reactions. Also, residents should be able to access the VAERS through the San Bernardino County website. It would be good to know because you have to be able to download the form and go ahead and actually submit it. If it's not submitted, you won't know. And if there's any way to go ahead and prove whether these vaccines are effective or not, it would be good to know how many reactions people that want the vaccine are actually taking it, how many reactions are actually
That's
happening.
time.
So, thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. We're going to move up to the high desert. Melissa Wetzel.
Hi, good morning, board and related parties. I would like to address item number 54, the COVID-19 update. Currently, there's a disclaimer up on the county COVID-19 dashboard that says, quote, "Due to the backlog of deaths that occurred between 12/15 and 1/7/20, that's 2020 and 2021, being reported in bulk, death counts are expected to increase by a large amount over the next week as they are processed and included in the dashboard data. Due to issues with the state's reporting system, laboratory results may also be inaccurate. Data is being verified with the state and will be updated once clarified," end quote. So basically, the county's dashboard is inaccurate, and so is that of the state, not to mention how far off both the county and state have been in terms of cycle thresholds used in PCR testing. I would like to know if the labs and hospitals throughout the county have changed their cycle threshold as it pertains to PCR testing now that the WHO has updated its recommendations. I would like to request transparency with regard to the cycle thresholds being used for PCR testing in the county, either on the county website or on the San Bernardino County Public Health website. Finally, I would like to bring up a couple of items that I have mentioned numerous times. I also met with Supervisor Cook and discussed these items personally. Supervisor Cook, I have yet to receive any further communication since our meeting after several attempts to follow up. The first item is a resolution proclaiming termination of the San Bernardino County Declaration of Local Health Emergency regarding COVID-19, as Placer County did. Couple this with a resolution like White Pine County passed, declaring a state of economic emergency due to the COVID-19 mandated regulations and orders. I've provided white papers for both resolutions multiple times and will do so again. The second item is the request is to request a public hearing or expert panel investigation of PCR testing and the experimental vaccinations. This would include experts brought forth by the county sources as well as my sources to avoid bias and to ensure the inclusion of a wide spectrum of experts. I look forward to a response from you all. Thank you.
Thank you for all your comments. That's all the requests to speak I have at this time for item number 54. We're going to move on to Madam Clerk. Can you please present today's agenda?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The following are the changes I have for today's agenda. Item number 6 is revised to read approve order form agreement for licensed content and services with Staywell Company LLC. The rest of the recommendation is unchanged. And item number 45 is revised to read approve amendment number 2 to contract number 19453. The rest of the recommendation is unchanged. Those are all the changes I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any member would like to pull in the consent items? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion for consent items 2 through 53.
So move.
A motion by Supervisor Baca, second by Supervisor Rutherford. We're all here, so we'll take public comment. First on item number 45, Doug Hauser. Then on deck, Philip Figgis.
Thank you. This is to object to item 45 and overall to the use of Dominion voting machines in our county and elsewhere. I'm not a wild-eyed conspiracy theorist, and I won't claim here that any election was stolen. But there is a widespread and deep mistrust of Dominion voting systems and other automated systems, and many, many people will never again trust in our electoral process if these machines are used. And I think we all agree that having a transparent, trustworthy election that virtually everyone agrees was fair is an extremely important consideration in how we should run our elections. And there is certainly some truth to claims of problems with Dominion and others, including Smartmatic. For one thing, even Dominion itself admits that checking their results is a difficult process. Checking counts should be as easy as with paper ballots, but it isn't. For another, in a court-ordered inspection of Michigan ballots done by Allied Security Operations Group, a Dallas firm, their report stated that Dominion software had a 68% chance of significant errors. The FEC guidelines state that errors should be below 0.0008% or 1 in 250,000. This caused, quote, a staggering number of votes to require adjudication. Matthew DePerno, the acting attorney, went into further detail about alleged error rates. Quote, we found that the Dominion voting systems is designed intentionally to create inherent and systemic voting errors. What I mean by that is when you run a ballot through the machine, even if it's a blank ballot, it will have a 68% chance of creating an error. When you create an error, the machine does not reject the ballot. What it does instead is to send it to a folder, and that folder will then accumulate the ballots until the time that someone decides that they need those ballots, and then those ballots will be bulk adjudicated by someone. It could be off-site, could be outside, on-site somewhere, sitting at a computer. And without any oversight, they can click one button, load the entire batch of ballots to one candidate, and then send them back to the tabulator, unquote. Clearly, bulk adjudication is entirely unnecessary and rife with fraud possibilities. These problems have been seen in other states as well and will be reported on by Allied soon. And this isn't the first time Dominion software has been called into question. Democrats voiced concern over the software in December of 2018. The Denver Post warned about their election security earlier last year. The Michigan GOP said a software glitch caused 6,000 votes to flip from Trump to Biden, although the cause of this has been debated. The point is that we want voters, all voters, to feel that that all legal ballots were counted fairly. This will never be the case as long as Dominion machines or software are used. As one patriotic American to 5 others, please take this into account when deciding this crucial issue. Thank you. And I have here several of the references that I used. I don't know whether I should pass them to the board individually or whether they
can
can
give
get
them
it
to
directed some
the
other way.
Trace here, our deputy over here, if you like, and he can make sure we get at those later. Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you very much.
Mr. Philip Figgis.
When I address 45, I want to say that this morning I listened to a statement made by the director of the FBI. He stated that the alleged attack on the U.S. Capitol on December 6, 2021 had no involvement of the group Antifa. It was labeled as domestic terrorism. Well, as I watched the scenario on that day live, both inside of the building and outside on several different channels, Antifa members were identified. And they were later identified again by other sources. Our sense of the FBI director in 2017, when he replaced the former director, was that he himself was not clear from the Russia hoax himself, as it was turned out to be and showed on several occasions after his appointment to protect those that had direct identity to the hoax and its attempt to overthrow a duly elected
Mr.
president
Ficus, are you
because of
addressing item
hatred.
number 45 right now?
Is that 45 or 54?
You have 45 of your agenda, and
Okay.
it sounds more
I'm
like
going to
public
address
comments.
45.
Yes, please. Thank you.
I'm leading up to it. The hoax attempted to overthrow a duly elected president because of hatred towards a peoples who had hated the established fraudulent and corrupted government that had run for several decades prior. We, the people, wanted transparency in our government and those who were leading it to be liable for what they were doing. Their lawless behaviors were not prosecuted. They weren't even investigated rightly. We wanted to swamp drain, which would require exposure of corruption and fraud and righteous and just prosecution of those guilty. We did not see this in the 4 years past while loads of evidence was brought forth. We came to an election a few months ago, which has never been investigated and brought before a court of law. This company, Dominion, like our top leaders, should not be trusted. We witnessed fraud and corruption and no justice whatsoever. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. J. Lindberg, number 13.
Behavioral health. We've just listened to a bunch of people say that, God forbid, our elections were flawed, that they were full of fraud, that the COVID-19 epidemic could have been taken care of with hydroxychloroquine, which was the recommendation of American frontline physicians. I keep wondering, because the way this council culture is going, we're going to need some behavioral health plans to deal with these troublemakers. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to figure out some way to get into this mechanism, this behavioral health crap associated with what we're dealing with, the fraudulent elections, locking up a country that didn't need to be locked up. Think of it, if hydrochloroquine worked, there's 500,000 people. Most of those people would still be alive right now. Yeah, we got some problems here. And I'm trying to figure out how this corrupt piece of shit system, excuse my language, is going to deal with all these people. Because, I watched the 2016 elections go down, and I watched the system screw Bernie, and the federal court case that the people put together. The judge came to the conclusion that there's nothing inside the DNC, platform or whatever you call it, I'm trying to remember what it is, that says that they've got to count the vote honestly. And so, you lost a huge chunk of the hardcore Democrats that believed in real activism and whatever. You threw that out of the window with that. And now you come up with this piece of shit election that we just went through. And, and you just look at that and you go, is anyone going to believe in this country any longer? I mean, I have a hard time believing in it. And the question that I have with behavioral health is, how the hell are they going to deal with all these troublemakers? Sooner or later, they're going to get together and they're not going to be as nice as they were on January 6th. As far as I can tell, 5 people died, 3 from natural causes, 1 shot by a cop, and the other one ended up dying of a stroke. There was no violence that killed people on that day. But they call it domestic terrorism. They call it worse than Oklahoma City. Are you effing kidding me? Anyway, like I said, there's a lot of troublemakers out there, and behavioral health is going to have to figure out some way to deal with them. And good luck with that. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. We're going to move on to Ron Sellers, item number 45 as well.
I hear a lot about Dominion, and we all have. I'd like to know who authorized Dominion to be the respective places it went to, who authorizes it now, and who makes the money on the side? Because we know the many politicians have made a lot of money outside of their official so-called jobs. That is one of the sickening things we find out. And also regarding this, of course, Queen, I always have a hard time stumbling over that word. But do you know anything about ultraviolet light? Do you know anything about the sun produces ultraviolet light besides infrared on each end of this color spectrum? Besides the blue, the green, and other things we see and appreciate right now? Ultraviolet light is very, very strong and good in killing viruses within a half a minute, or even longer in some cases. Sit outside and take a sun bath for a few minutes. Maybe 30 minutes would be a good idea. Rotate around a little bit. Let the sun get to you. That is free. It's good for suntan. I saw one article on the internet regarding that, and they say you have to be careful about getting sunburned. That is so lame. I don't know who wrote that article. Because otherwise, people walking around with no shirts or very short sleeves would be toasted by now in many areas. That sun is very helpful. This is a very fraudulent time in our life. I just had a birthday here last February the 14th, and I've been around much longer than many here. People, we have to wake up and take our country back. We're losing our Constitution of the United States of America. Many politicians do not respond to calls. They do not respond to requests, except the way we don't have I don't worry about the swamp. We see them once in a while. It's not transparent. I've been in Idaho. I've lived there for quite a while, and I know what a swamp is like also. But however, what is worse is a cesspool, and that's where we have it. Who is who? Who pays who? Who pays the United Nations? Who pays for all these things we turn to? Where did they get the money? Where did they get the deal? Right now, we don't have any gold standard or silver standard even. We have just paper money and just monopoly money. So go ahead and do that if we want to live on that. That way we can get rid of taxes because we just print more money, don't need charge taxes, right? That's not a bad idea either. Too many times we steal our money and we go about, we're being tricked. We're being tricked on this stuff.
Thank you, Mr. Sellers. Thank you for your comments. We're going to move back. That's all the requests I have to speak on the consent agenda. We have a motion and a second. And all those in favor? Aye. Consent items pass. We're going to now turn to public comment. And the first request is from a Janice. I don't have your last name here. I'm sorry? After that, we're going to have Jane Hunt Rubel. Good morning.
Good morning. So first of all, let me say that I'm a 60s kid. I was arrested with Cesar Chavez. I did all that. And I burned my bra. And this is the equivalent of a bra, only it's on your mouth. It's much more restricted than any bra I ever had. I want to talk about election integrity, though. My neighbor next door to me said, you know, Janice, I know you're very political. He says, I'm not. You know, I watch CNN, I watch Fox, I read the newspaper, I read my ballot measures, and I don't believe my vote was counted. I'm never going to vote again. And this is so horrific to think that people who, gave their all for the country. This man was a veteran, Vietnam guy. He doesn't believe in our elections. And especially the 5 of you up there are the ones that are really impacted. How can we count on what you're saying anytime if we don't trust the elections? If we don't trust the elections, then we don't trust what you're saying to us on COVID. We don't trust anything if you're lying to us about the basic principles of our country and what it means to be an American. Fair elections, fair elections. Please, please listen to these people. There are a lot of, quote, conspiracy. Well, there aren't a lot. I travel in circles where the conspiracy pushers would be everywhere, and they are not. They want free elections. They don't think that the 5 of you are conspiring to bring the downfall of the United States. But they are so worried that that's what's happened by our complacency, by not coming to the Board of Supervisors, making comments and asking you to please, please save our country. And to our new supervisor, I just want to say, Mr. Ramos, I'm trying to get a hold of the people in Bloomington, because even though they tend to be, I'm on the right and they're on the left, I really think we have an issue that we can work on together in the zoning in Bloomington. I've called your staff and I'm really hoping we can work with them because we agree with what's happening there. So anyway, thank you. Bye.
Thank you. We'll correct for the record. Supervisor Baca.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Baca. Please forgive me. I'm getting old, you know.
I think this year aged us all quite a bit. Ms. Jane Hunt Rubel, and then Doug Hauser.
Good morning, board members. I think it's still morning. Anyway, I'd like to talk to you about the usual things I talk about. It's about this morning when I was on my way here, Cajon Boulevard has become, some of it's in the city of San Bernardino and the rest of it is in Muscoy. But I've been noticing my main issue is the deterioration of the roads, mostly in the San Bernardino section because they're building all these warehouses. And I'm part of a committee for represents San Bernardino and Muscoy for the AB 617. I was told the other day, a friend of mine called me and said, because I'm always bringing it up at the board meeting, the meetings I attend for AB 617, about these, it's about air quality, it's about the proliferation. It's insane in the valley area, both in the county areas and the cities, of warehouses being built. I mean, it's insane. Along Cajon Boulevard, up near Institution Road, they built 3 or 4 of them. And the roads there, you have to dodge them when you're coming back down Cajon Boulevard, and it's disgusting. And that's Route 66. And I wish better things would happen along there instead of building. You know, the city's been approving this, it's going to be on the corner of Palm and near the freeway, this big truck stop. And that'll be more traffic and more deterioration of the roads. And I'd like to see an end to this by counties and cities approving all these warehouses. Because I hear, like, I watch the city council meetings on public television, and both the Board of Supervisors and the County Planning Commission, and then the city of San Bernardino, they always are complaining about housing for the homeless, and there's no housing. My suggestion has always been, instead of building these warehouses in areas and tearing down whole community in San Bernardino City, they tore down a whole community to build warehouses. Why don't you build public housing? Or, that would be a better use of the land than committing to Amazon had just taken over San Bernardino City. And it's the quality of life issue, which is important. So I wish the cities and the counties would stop approving all these warehouses. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. We move on to Doug Hauser.
Let's see.
Philip Figgis.
I want to talk again about election integrity in a little more general terms, not dealing with the specific issue of the Dominion voting systems. And I'll admit that I'm channeling an article by Hans von Spakovsky, which I strongly recommend that you all check out. It's very simple and straightforward, not very long. And he's got several suggestions. Some of these are within the county purview and others not. Number one is verify the accuracy of voter registration lists. I've done work with the Institute for Fair Elections, where they check up on individual voters. And I can say that San Bernardino is much better looking overall than, let's say, LA County. However, there still is, horrible replication, duplication, and other errors. I've seen personally cases where 20 people are registered to the same address with different last names. And when I look at the address, it's a 250 square foot house, that there's no way there are that many people living there. And yet there are 20 registered voters there. Verifying citizenship of voters. Obviously, only citizens can vote in federal elections. And so anybody registering should be required to show proof of citizenship. It's not that difficult. Anybody can do it. Requiring a voter ID. We've heard from the other side, I'll call them the other side, that it's just too difficult for some people to get voter ID. That's ridiculous. They also will claim in the next sentence that these same people will be able to trace their heritage back to slavery so that they can receive reparations. And so they can trace their family back 150 years, but they can't get a voter ID. That's absurd on its face. Limiting absentee ballots. This massive use of absentee ballots in the last election is one of the main reasons that people are very, very suspicious. Absentee ballots should be for their original purpose for people who are either shut-ins with medical conditions or they're out of the county or out of the district on election and voting days, and it should be reserved for those purposes. Preventing vote trafficking, which has been happily called or unhappily called vote harvesting, but it's actually vote trafficking. If there's not a proper chain of custody for votes, then there is no reason to believe them. We know that in any court, any evidence that does not have a proper chain of custody is thrown out. Votes should be the same. They are evidence of how the voter wished to express themselves. And if that evidence is tainted and now with a proper chain of custody, then that evidence should not be allowed. Allow election observers complete access to the process. I have been an election observer, and this last election, 2020, I must admit I had a very good view of what was going on. But in 2018, there were several times where I was set so far away that I could not tell what was going on. And I was with somebody else, and we both looked at each other and said, what are we doing here? We can't tell what that person we're supposed to be watching is doing at all. They could have been destroying ballots, replacing ballots, doing anything, and it would have been impossible for us to tell. So we need to make sure that observers are truly able to observe.
That's time.
Okay, there are a couple of other suggestions. I would like you to read the article. It's not very complex, and I think most of those things are very common sense suggestions.
Thank you very much. Philip Figgis? Then Flor Arevalo.
Once again, I would like to back up my friend here, Doug Hauser, and tell you that I also observed on 2 counties, Riverside and San Bernardino, the process of voting in 2018. And I saw a lot of stuff that it is not proper. You cannot tell me that those ballots were right. They were not right. They were not audited properly. And it hasn't been seen here. Now, if you look at what's happened over the last 4 years, you can see 2 years back what happened here in California, and then you can see it being dispersed nationwide in certain states. And you can't sit there and tell us that there wasn't some fraud and wrongdoing in changing the laws using improper leadership and government to do so. There's a whole lot of things there that exist to tell you that this election was not done rightly. And that goes for this state too. I asked a question to the supervisors a couple months ago or a month ago or so. And one of my questions was, have you gotten a hold of Kevin and found out how he sued the governor for the things that he did during COVID? And he used COVID as a way to lock down people, destroy our economy, and really decimate the people's spirit. And that's exactly what communism is all about. On the hand of the students aren't learning our history. Our history is built on a certain platform. It's called righteousness and justice. And they're not being taught that anymore. They're being taught to hate each other. And that's not what our Constitution or our Bill of Rights was written for. There's something wrong. And it's wrong with leadership. And you will be responsible. Whether something happens to you here or when you die, we're all going to die. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments, Floor Arvalo. Then Jane Lindberg. Floor.
Good morning. I just want to say that I feel like it's kind of sad that you guys just sit here and don't listen to the people that come here and talk about the alternative health measures that we could be taking. We could be taking into acknowledgement ivermectin and hydrochloroquine for COVID. And you guys are just sitting there, sipping your little coffees, drinking your little teas, woo, 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 and wah, 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 and not really helping us. We want to go back to school, people my age, Generation C, and you guys just, we're going to wait for the vaccine and, we're going to get into the red tier. No, we're tired of it. Open up our schools. We don't want to wear the stupid mask anymore. It's no need. It doesn't protect us. You guys are just already like in your 70s. You guys already lived your lives. What about us? We want to live our lives. We want to hang out. We want to party. We want to see our friends. We want to go outside. We want to get some vitamin D. But no, 6 feet social distancing. Don't see your friends. Don't see your family. Don't see anybody. Just die. That's what you guys are telling us. I'm just so sick of it. I can't go to school. I can't do anything. I can't even go back to work. Get it together. Get it together, all of you guys. Every week, people come, complain. Hey, guys, can you help us? No, we don't want to help you guys. We're just going to sit here, get our paychecks, talk about the vaccine and how it's 85% effective. We're going to trial on you guys. We don't care. You guys don't care about us. Do your job. Do your job.
Jay Lindberg, then Pamela Jackson.
How important is dealing with voter fraud? Well, the public feels like, or at least probably close to half of this country feels like they got robbed in this election. And I'm sure a lot of the people in the Democratic Party feel like it too. That, it would have been better. It's an old saying, it's better to lose an election honorably than to win it through voter fraud. Y'all are up here and you have some loyalty to the public because they're the people that put you in office, but you've also got to deal when you're making decisions like how to handle COVID let's say you know that hydroxychloroquine really works, and you're up here, but you've got to deal with not only the bureaucracies, but you have to deal with those clowns that are behind the scenes that are handling the voter fraud. See, you have a loyalty to them too, and I don't even know if you know who they are. It's like every time you make a decision, it's not, is the public going to vote you out for it? But it's, what about the people behind the curtain? The people, the components of the deep state, the people that really control the elections, that really control this mess. It's like, if you do a little bit of digging, and I would suggest if you haven't seen Absolute Truth yet, you can't, it's weird because if you go on Google and you look for Absolute Truth, you get probably close to 1,000 articles now saying it's all been refuted, but it doesn't say who refuted it. And you can't find the actual video. The only place that I can find it now is through DuckDuckGo. You type in DuckDuckGo, and then you type in Absolute Truth, and guess what? It's right there. But if you try to find it through your regular search engines, you're not going to be able to find it. All you're going to see is, and like I said, it's real straightforward. You've got forensic experts dealing with voter fraud up there explaining this is what we did. This is what we found. And and then at the end of it, you see all these little arrows, where, for election technology, not election technology, but the electronics that goes into subverting the vote and stuff like that. There's a lot of people that have that information now. And there's a lot of people that had the ability to, in real time, observe the transfer of information back and forth with these voting machines. There were a lot of people that had this information, and look, they're the ones that are saying this is voter fraud.
Thank you for your comments. Pamela Jackson? Good morning, Ms. Jackson.
Good morning, supervisors. Thank you for this opportunity to address the supervisor's oath of office. An oath, an official promise by a person who has been elected to a public office to fulfill the duties of the office according to the law of the United States and California constitutions. Executive Order 10450 specifies it is a violation of Title 5 USC 7311 for any person taking the oath of office to advocate the alteration of the form of the government of the United States by unconstitutional means. Our form of government is defined by the Constitution of the United States. It can only be altered by constitutional amendment. Your oath declares you will not advocate the overthrow of the government of the United States or the state of California by unlawful means. This includes the supporting of unlawful policies, orders, and mandates which have no lawful enforcement. Supervisors and governors are administrators of state agencies, not lawmakers. Your ongoing complicity in the misrepresentation of COVID data is a violation of your oath and bond. The penalty for violating your oath of office is the fourth federal law, 18 USC 1918, Title 5 USC 7311, which is removal from office, confinement, or a fine. The court belongs to the sovereign people. The United States Supreme Court defines the court as an agency of the sovereign, the people, created by the people, directly or indirectly, under the people's authority, consisting of one or more officers, which are magistrate, sheriff, coroner, and prosecutor, established and maintained for the purpose of hearing and determining issues of law and fact regarding legal rights and alleged violations. Is it your intention to violate your oath of office and to knowingly and willingly coerce and intimidate the people into surrendering our rights under threat? Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. That's all the requests to speak I have at this time. We'll be being back to the regular board meeting. We have no deferral and discussion items. So we're going to turn back to board comments. We'll start off with Supervisor Baca.
No comments, Chairman.
Thank you. Supervisor Rutherford. Supervisor Cook. Thank you. Vice Chair.
I thought Paul was going to be remote today, so I had this big sign that says "Happy Birthday, Paul."
Oh, we missed it.
So since you're in person, happy early birthday. I think it's tomorrow.
Yes, and for all the math majors in the audience, I'm going to be 39. Jack Benny's age again. And somebody alluded to the 70s. I won't even go there at all. But thank you very much for remembering. I try to forget them. Thank you.
And I also wanted to say that County Fire is hosting on Saturday, April 3rd, a household hazardous waste collection at the Ukaipa Equestrian Center from 8 to noon. So thank you, County Fire.
Great. And I believe we're ongoing as we're here at the board meeting today. We have our second large event at the Speedway. And so we're hoping that it goes smoothly today and we're getting lots of seniors through to go through. And we're going to adjourn this meeting to next Tuesday. Our return date is on March 9th. We'll see you all there. Thank you very much.